not you.
I'm afraid.
So at the end of the day, I'm not you. This is what you do, and then I'm gonna leave the shit alone. No, fuck that. No, Imani, I'm not potting. I'm not potting. Nigga, don't fucking stand up. What are you doing? What the fuck is you doing?
Can you grab him?
Nigga, do you want...
Well. Things are quickly coming to a head at the JBP network. And as usual, Flip finds himself in the middle of all the controversy. But this time, it wasn't COA, and things could have definitely got taken to another level. On a recent episode of the JBP, Marc and Flip almost came to blows after Flip called Marc a sucker. And this was extremely triggering for Marc, as hood boogers always seem to have this idea that because you're educated, you can be bullied, chumped, stepped on, and walked all over. Make no mistakes about it. Marc is from North Philly. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't be a bitch, and it don't mean that he can fight. But what it does mean is that he's not that far removed from the ignorant nigga bullshit. Which in turn also means that regardless of how many degrees he has, he can revert right back to the ignorant North Philly shit when necessary. Sometimes intellectualism can be conflated with bitch-assness, and at this point, Marc is fed up. I mean, who decided that you couldn't be smart and have hands? Or you couldn't be pretty and polished and have hands too? Why is it that all the stupid ass ignorant niggas and all the ugly dyke looking bitches never have to prove themselves or how tough they are? They could just get by on being ignorant and mean and ugly, and nobody will ever believe that these individuals are incapable of defending themselves because they're ugly, because they're ignorant. You get what I'm saying? It's funny because I was literally just watching a clip of Gloria Velez talking about how she whooped Remy Ma ass, and a lot of people didn't believe it because she was so much prettier and so much more dainty and feminine than Remy Ma at the time. And that's why Remy thought she was a weak link, because she was pretty. And you know what? It's the same pattern that I'm starting to see with the co-host of the JBP. Nobody really wants the intellectual smoke with Marc. Cause child, I swear Marc got them niggas in line. Ish don't even try to get his shit off how he used to, because he's used to being perceived as the smartest nigga in the room. That is until Marc showed up and kinda rained on his parade. And not for nothing, a lot of people on TikTok really hate Ish. So, you know, they be calling him like slow and shit. Anything he say, they say Ish is slow, which I don't agree with, but whatever. Now, do I think that at times Marc can be condescending? Yes. But he's no different than how Joe Budden act, how Ice used to act before he got there, and how they all get in their condescension bag when it comes to Flip. Saying shit like the nigga only eat chicken nuggets and french fries, and that the kids relate to him, and like all the other little slick comments they be saying to imply that Flip is dumb. You get what I'm saying? Like, when it's Flip, everybody cackles. You know, it's all good in the neighborhood. But then when Marc get in his condescending pocket, it's offensive to people, because he actually has the credentials to back it up, whereas other people in the room don't. So they all feel small around Marc. And I noticed that even when Marc is asking a question because he doesn't understand something, his co-hosts are so insecure that they think he playing dumb when really he don't know the answer. There has been countless times on the podcast when he agreed with a point somebody made, and because they're so bothered by Marc's education, they thought he was arguing with them and arguing against their point when he's literally agreeing with you. You can't make this shit up. But like I always say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Even though they'd all technically be gander. But that's besides the point. The bottom line is this. If everybody on the show can be condescending, then nobody should have a problem when it's Marc who getting his shit off. Pick up a fucking book. I've been listening to this podcast on and off for about 10 years, and I've never heard not one nigga on the show recommend a book or stress the importance of reading. I mean, like Marc told Flip, I'm not using tricky words because they're tricky to you. And having been surrounded by doofuses myself, I relate to that quote so much. There's actually nothing tricky about what I'm saying. You just haven't picked up a fucking book since you were in high school. And it's not my job to dumb myself down for you to understand what I'm saying when what I'm saying is very, very basic. Flip's not a child. Flip's not even barely legal. I mean, sure, he has this childlike energy about him that I really like sometimes, but let's be real, y'all. Flip is 40 years old. Marc don't have to dumb himself down for Flip or anybody else in the room to feel okay. He's in a room full of men who are 40 and 50 years old. Like, what are we talking about? Oh, and another thing. Why does Flip have an issue with being a court jester all of a sudden? I mean, people perceive him that way mostly because of how he acts. Destroying studios for content, playing dumb, and being an agent of chaos was part of his brand. And for a while, it worked because there was an audience for it. But when you do what I call court jester content, you have to understand that there's no longevity in it because people grow up. And when the things they found entertaining in their teenage years and in their early 20s is no longer a viable strategy, they're stuck with the reputation they spent years building. I literally just saw the same shit I'm talking about happen with Meatball a few weeks ago. She ended up going to this club in Texas and they wouldn't let her in because she showed up looking a mess. You know how Meatball do. And she's like, but it's my brand, this is what I do, it's my brand. And that's cool and all for Instagram and shit like that, but in real life, not everybody wants that kind of buffoonery in their establishment or even affiliated with their brand or establishment. And then a few months ago, it happened, well, it was probably like over a year ago now, but the same shit happened with Natalie Nunn when she was trying to get into this black-owned restaurant in DC, and they really wasn't having it. Everybody ain't playing. Once you've successfully branded yourself as a clown, don't get mad when people start treating you like that. No bullshit, and it's really no shade, but Flip has the same level of cognitive dissonance as Melissa Ford. It's like, girl, don't brand yourself as a courtesan, then get mad when that's how you're perceived. Don't brand yourself as the court jester, then get mad when that's how you're perceived. And don't point the finger at everybody else when you're perceived that way, period. I mean, Mel, I expected to be that way because she had a white mom, you know? And Flip, I expect to be that way because he lives in Never Never Land. And don't get me wrong, like I said before, and I'll keep saying it, I love that about Flip. I think his immaturity is an underrated necessary evil for the podcast, especially with Marc now being a co-host. Flip's immaturity breaks up the monotony on the podcast at certain points, and I appreciate that, for real. But Flip better stop thinking that Marc won't put hands and feet on him because he's smart. Like, yo, this is now the second time they've almost came to blows because Flip talk all this street shit like he's this notorious killer because Marc got a few degrees under his belt. As if he's the only person on the podcast that knows street niggas or that's affiliated with street niggas. And I hate to be the one that keeps saying this, but Marc is from North Philadelphia. And to anybody that might come across this video and never been to North Philadelphia or don't know what that means, North Philly is gritty like Brooklyn and dirty like the Bronx, especially during the time where Marc was growing up, which would have been like the 70s and the 80s and shit like that. Like, they were all on dog food during that era. And not for nothing, I mean, don't quote me on this because I could be completely making this shit up, but I think one of Marc's brothers was like a career criminal. So again, just because Marc has a few fucking degrees under his belt does not mean he's far removed from the hood booger bullshit. Marc told that nigga Flip, oh nigga, you want to get ghetto, huh? Marc said, let's get ghetto, nigga. I'm not potting no more. You got me fucked up. Anyway, because I'm having way too much fun recording this. Don't ever think that because a nigga chose to do the right thing that he's incapable of doing the wrong thing and coming down to your level to give you a fair one. Flip passively aggressively called that man a sucker and tucked his tail when Marc started getting hot. But when Marc was trying to placate him right before he said that, Flip wasn't trying to hear none of that shit. It's almost like he gets off on getting Marc out of character just so he can come back to the people and be like, see, I told you that nigga was ghetto like me. With the implication being that Marc is fronting for the cameras. And maybe he is. Shit, I don't know. But what I do know is that the Joe Budden Podcast seems like somewhat of a respite for Marc. The platform is his burner page, so his interactions on there aren't as cerebral as they are on his platform or other relevant platforms about world news and politics. It just seems that way at times because of who he's surrounded by. But my God, am I living for Marc being an intellectual bully. Anyway, do y'all think Marc can fight? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he boxed at some point. I mean, we are Philadelphians. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, and I'll see you all in my next video. I'm Penny Isaac, and you can cry in the comments.